Roy Rogers Franchise Company, LLC is a Mid-Atlantic and Northeastern United States chain of fast food restaurants founded by the Marriott Corporation in 1968 in Falls Church, Virginia. As of August 2012, Roy Rogers had 49 stores, 20 corporate and 29 franchised. In 2002, the Plamondon Companies purchased the trademark from Imasco, the former parent of Hardee's. Under the new owners, the company is headquartered in Frederick, Maryland. Roy Rogers' menu consists primarily of hamburgers, roast beef sandwiches, fried chicken, French fries and beverages. History. Roy Rogers is a chain of U.S. fast food family restaurants, numbering over 650 at its peak, named after cowboy movie actor Roy Rogers. Marriott Corporation founded the chain to replace their older Hot Shops junior fast food chain, most of which were then converted. They licensed the name from Roy Rogers and operated the restaurants from 1968 through 1990. The first location opened in 1968 in the Bailey's Crossroads section of Falls Church, Virginia, on the corner of Leesburg Pike and Carlin Springs Road, not far from the Hot Shops on Columbia Pike. That Roy Rogers is now a McDonald's. Another junior Hot Shops that became a Roy Rogers was at 5214 River Road, in Bethesda, Maryland, directly across the street from the original headquarters of Marriott Corporation. Marriott senior executives and members of the Marriott family were frequent patrons of the location. In 1982, Marriott Corporation bought the Geno's restaurant chain for $48.6 million. The company converted 180 of the 313 restaurants to Roy Rogers to expand in the Baltimore-Washington area. In 1990, Marriott sold the chain for $365 million to Hardee's, a southern chain seeking to expand into the Mid-Atlantic market again. Hardee's converted the remaining non-franchised locations into Hardee's restaurants. Many of the new Hardee's continue to feature Roy Rogers fried chicken. The conversion of the Roy Rogers chain ended in a customer revolt so serious that they actually aborted the whole idea and returned the Roy Rogers brand to stores initially converted. The restaurants promoted new flame-broiled hamburgers, but they were not the same as the original Roy Rogers products and they later failed. Hardee's finally sold the remaining Roy Rogers locations to McDonald's, Wendy's and Boston Market between 1994 and 1996. This left 13 Roy Rogers franchisees, with 24 freestanding locations, in addition to locations owned by McDonald's in travel plazas along highways in the Northeast. New ownership and relaunch. Plamondon Companies took the lead among franchisees in developing products, hosting training sessions and shooting new food photography for their stores. Plamondon Companies is run by Jim Plamondon and Peter Plamondon Jr., the two sons of Peter Plamondon Sr., head of the restaurant division at Marriott when the Roy Rogers brand was created. Roy Rogers was relaunched as Roy Rogers Franchise Company, LLC in 2002 when Plamondon Companies bought the trademark and franchise system from Imasco, the former owner of Hardee's. In 1997, CKE Restaurants acquired Hardee's from Imasco, but Imasco held on to the Roy Rogers trademark and franchise system. Plamondon negotiated with Imasco for about 3 years before a private purchase agreement was reached in 2002. The first new Roy Rogers restaurant after many years of decline was opened in Frederick, Maryland by Plamondon in 2000 and saw lines out the door. Based in Frederick, Maryland, the Plamondon Companies is a privately held company with annual revenues of $20 million a year. In 1980, the Plamondon Companies opened its doors with their first Roy Rogers restaurant. As of 2012, there are 20 company-owned Roy Rogers restaurants, while franchisees operate the rest. The company is seeking franchisees to continue Roy Rogers expansion throughout the Northeast region. Key dates: 1968, the first Roy Rogers opens at 5603 Leesburg Pike, Falls Church, Virginia. 1970s, Roy Rogers chain flourishes under Marriott. Several hundred franchised and company units open. 1970s first Long Island stores open in Greenville and Comac, 1973 stores in Uniondale, Island Trees and Farmingdale open, 1975, Long Island store opens in Shirley, New York, in Suffolk County. 1976, Roy Rogers in Fairfax, Virginia is robbed, in a high-profile case, where 5 employees were herded into the restaurant's freezer and shot in the head. 4 people were killed, and 1 survived. 1980s, franchisee Plamondon Enterprises, Incorporated opens 7 and acquires 3 Roy Rogers locations. 1982, Marriott purchases the Geno's restaurant chain for $48.6 million and converts many of the restaurants to Roy Rogers. 1982, Marriott threatens to take the Rise family, a franchisee, to court when they discovered the Rises were reserving space for hard currency agent Daz and Godfather's Pizza in a property slotted for a Times Square Roy Rogers restaurant. 1989, Marriott decides to get out of the fast food business and sell its Roy Rogers, Howard Johnson's, Bob's Big Boy and other chains to concentrate on its fast food operations catering to captive buyers at airports and along turnpikes. 1990, a total of 648 Roy Rogers locations are in operation primarily in the Northeastern Mid-Atlantic states. 1990, Marriott sells Roy Rogers to Hardee unregistered trademark S, subsidiary of Imasco, for $365 million in its plan to exit the fast food business. 1990, Hardee unregistered trademark S converts 220 Roy Rogers locations to Hardee unregistered trademark S. 1992, due to customer loyalty, Hardee's reconverts 220 former Roy Rogers locations back to Roy Rogers. 1992, Jordan, McGraw, Case & Taylor Incorporated, a New York advertising agency, is hired to promote the Roy Rogers brand. 1992, Ronald R. Powell, who ran Roy Rogers from 1985 to 1987 under Marriott, becomes president of Roy Rogers and is believed to have influenced Hardee's decision in dropping its conversion strategy and restoring the chain to its original identity. 1993, with much fanfare and a celebrating featuring cowboys and pony rides for children, an experimental Super Roy Rogers opens at the Vienna, Virginia location. The store features usual Roy Rogers food items but with added flair, such as third-pound burgers, barbecue sauce served with a ladle, and an improved dining room with television screens. 1994, Hardee's sells 84 company-owned Roy Rogers restaurants in the Philadelphia region to Boston Market for $22 million. 1995, Hardee's sells 45 company-owned Roy Rogers restaurants in New York region to Wendy's International Incorporated. 1996, Hardee's sells 184 company-owned Roy Rogers restaurants in the Baltimore, Washington region to McDonald's for $74 million. 1996, only 13 Roy Rogers franchisees remain operating a total of about 152 units through the Northeast, including 48 units in highway travel plazas and 15 in New York City. 1997, CKE Restaurants acquires Hardee unregistered trademark S from Imasco. Imasco retains Roy Rogers trademark due to a franchisee lawsuit. 1997, the Rise family, now franchisees of 18 Roy Rogers restaurants, sues CKE Restaurants and Imasco for $10 million, claiming the Roy Rogers chain has been destroyed through a series of marketing errors of epic proportions. 1997, CKE enters into a management agreement for the 6 Roy Rogers restaurants currently operated by Hardee's. CKE also agrees to perform services relating to the continued franchise operations of the Roy Rogers restaurant chain for $1.5 million over 3 years. 1990 unregistered trademark S, franchisee Plamondon Enterprises, Incorporated opens 2 and acquires 3 Roy Rogers locations. 2000, Plamondon Enterprises, Incorporated opens a new Roy Rogers prototype unit in Frederick, Maryland. 2001, Plamondon Enterprises, Incorporated develops and opens a new Roy Rogers unit in Germantown, Maryland in a former Burger King. 2002, Imasco sells Roy Rogers trademark rights to Plamondon Enterprises, Incorporated. 2003, Mshost signs agreement to continue operating Roy Rogers in travel plazas. 2003, Roy Rogers Franchise Company unveils its OE Roy Rogers Rides Again, a refranchising growth initiative. 2003, Roy Rogers Restaurants launches RoyRogersRestaurants.com website. 2004, Roy Rogers opens in Gaithersburg, Maryland in a former Hardee's. 2004, Todd Restaurants, Incorporated sign new long-term Pioneer franchise agreement for its 4 Roy Rogers locations in Alexandria, Virginia. 2005, Smith Gifford is selected as the agency of record for Roy Rogers Restaurants. 2006, Roy Rogers Restaurants rank 4th in the franchise Times 20 to watch in 2006. 2007, Roy Rogers opens in Ranson, West Virginia and Westminster, Maryland. 2007, SuperValue, CT, LLC enters into a long-term franchise agreement for a Roy Rogers location in North Stonington, Connecticut. 2008, Roy Rogers opens in North Stonington, Connecticut on January 24, 2008. 2009, Roy Rogers opens a second location in Germantown, Maryland on January 28, 2009 in a former Wendy's. 2009, Roy Rogers closes in Manchester, Connecticut, leaving 1 restaurant in Connecticut. 2009, Roy Rogers closes in Penn Station, leaving 1 restaurant in New York City. 2009, Roy Rogers Restaurants redesigns RoyRogersRestaurants.com website. 2009, Roy Rogers Restaurants creates official profiles on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. 2009, last Roy Rogers in Delaware closes on December 26, 2009 for Delaware House Service Plaza redevelopment. It was replaced with Burger King on June 28, 2010. 2010, last Roy Rogers on Long Island closes on November 29, 2010. 2012, last Roy Rogers in Ohio, located in Eastgate, changes its name to Roney's. 2014, retains the Roy Rogers sign at this time. 2012, Roy Rogers opens in Burtonsville, Maryland in the new Burtonsville Town Square Shopping Center. 2013, Roy Rogers opens in Waldorf, Maryland at 3310 Crane Highway, in a former Arby's. Products and services. Popular items on the menu are roast beef sandwiches and fried chicken, which was advertised by Roy Rogers under the Pappy Parker name in the 1980s using the cartoon Prospector. Other signature items at Roy Rogers are the Gold Rush chicken sandwich and a double bar burger. The side items featured at Roy Rogers are French fries, baked potatoes, mashed potatoes with gravy, baked beans, coleslaw, side salad, fruit cup, and baked apples. Though standard Roy Rogers locations serve food in a typical fast food fashion, some locations and the franchises located throughout Mid-Atlantic Highway rest stops serve the food in a cafeteria style. An exception is the Allentown Service Plaza on the Pennsylvania Turnpike's northeast extension, which serves its customers in the typical fast food fashion since it reopened in May 2008. In the cafeteria-style restaurants, customers push their trays on rails past stations stocked with pre-wrapped packages of hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and roast beef sandwiches. A feature of this chain in any of the locations is the Fixins bar, which features numerous condiments. Because of this, sandwich items are delivered without any of the customary garnishes. After selecting and paying for these items, patrons can garnish them to their own taste at the Fixins bar with such items as ketchup, Barbec sauce, mayonnaise, horseradish sauce, lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, and onions. Some locations have Hershey's ice cream. Locations. As of June 24, 2014, there are 53 total Roy Rogers restaurants in 6 states: Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia. See also, List of fast food chicken restaurants, references. External links. Roy Rogers Restaurants.